Okay, to do the modification on the slide catch lever, I don't need to go any further, but I'm going to disassemble the rest here because this needs a good cleaning. As you can see in there, it's really filthy. I've got about 1,200 rounds through this gun since I got it, so it's never been fully disassembled and cleaned. And my house is really dusty, so this has picked up a lot of dust. So since I got it this far, I'm going to go ahead and take it down the rest of the way and clean it out. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove the decocking lever spring, which you can see it hooks in that little pin. Where are we at here? It hooks in that little pin and then this little hole. So I'm going to take a little screwdriver here and get it up out of this hole. Just like that. And it kind of just sits in there. Alright, now the decocking lever will just come right out. And there's a bushing on the back side, an L-shaped bushing. And that only goes in there one way. Goes in the inside of the frame, and it's going to go with the tab down towards the back of the gun when you reassemble. It fits in there just like that. So that comes out. Alright, so next I'm going to remove the hammer spring assembly. And it just sits in there. If you take a little screwdriver, if you take and kind of put your hand in there, and you're going to want to, the hammer spring assembly sits in a groove here. So you got there's a notch there for a screwdriver, and you're going to push that up. I don't know if I can keep this in the camera and do it. Just a little bit, and then it releases. So that all sits up in there, up under the bottom of the hammer. Set this off to the side. Alright, so the next step is to remove, why can't I line this up? All these internal components. You have the sear spring, the safety lever, and the ejector. They're all held in by one single pin here. That's going to push out the right side of the gun. And when you slide that out, it's all going to come out at once. So the first step is going to be, as you can see, the sear spring. Come on, I can't get it. Hopefully you can see. The sear spring down in there is resting against the springs under that pin. So I'm going to pop that spring loose to release the tension. Alright, now the sear spring is loose. So now I'm going to push the pin out. Alright, I'm actually going to use a baby drill bit to push out the sear spring. And all these parts are going to come out. And there's the sear and the safety lever. They fall at the bottom, and then the ejector kind of rocks forward. And the ejector's sitting on this pin here. Kind of goes like that, so you gotta rock that forward, and that comes out. So there's the sear, the safety lever, sear spring, sear pin, and the ejector, all in one little sub-assembly. Then all that's left is the hammer in here. So I'm going to pop that. That's just a separate pin. Pop that out. And then the hammer. Alright, and there's one last little part down in here, and there's a hammer reset spring. And there's a little pin that holds that piece on. You can see that little piece right there, and there's a little pin. And you can see that pin's really small. I'm not even going to take that out. I'll just blow that out with compressed air. It's just a little spring. And that's basically it. So everything's torn down on the frame. Everything except the mag release, which is kind of a pain to get out. There's a couple little springs, so I'm not going to take that out. It's You know, I'll just put a little oil on it, blow it out with compressed air, and that's your takedown frame. I'm not going to take down the assembly up here today, just this bottom part. Okay, I actually did decide I am going to take out the magazine release, and if you can see here, there's a little pin that you can barely see in there. You're going to want to push that down, and that'll allow the mag release to come out. Now in that little pin, there's a pin and a spring, and then also the main spring. Those things can come popping out. So what I'm going to do is take a piece of saran wrap and put it around here while I do this, and keep it down on the table. That way if that spring flies out, I'll have it trapped in there. Now I probably can't keep this on camera while I do this. So. Okay, and here you can see there's the slide release lever out, and you can see that little catch pin in it. Damn it, I can't get this thing lined up. See that little catch pin? That's what keeps it from popping out. So you got to push that all the way down in, and there's a little pin inside there. There's that little catch pin, and then a pin or a spring in there. Take those out. Little dinky spring, and then of course the main swing for the slide release. So you don't want to lose those parts. Alright, now I'm going to start reassembling this thing in reverse order. First thing I'm going to do is the slide release, or the magazine release lever. Insert the spring in the back. I'm going to put a little oil on this here. This is a moving part. Some people don't like to do a lot of oil because, you know, it collects dirt, but if you can take the gun apart frequently, clean it, or not frequently, but get all the dirt out, I think a little bit of oil is a benefit. Alright, now insert this little spring into this slide or magazine release catch. Put that in there. This is a little tedious. There's the sub-assembly. Don't know if that shows up. Set that into position. You press that lever. Make sure that thing's nice and square. We can put that thing down farther than it looks. Alright. Alright, next comes after the magazine release, next comes the hammer. Now there's the hammer reset spring in there in the back. I don't know if you can see. And when you put the hammer in, there's a bar on the hammer. You want to put that bar underneath this reset spring. So that's kind of tricky to do. Okay, get it up under the reset spring. Put a little grease on this hammer pivot pin. And go ahead and slide the hammer pivot pin back in there. Ugh. And if you push it bar too forward, you're going to snap the hammer reset spring will come out from under the bottom of the bar, and you'll have to pull it back out and do it again, which is what I did while I was testing the function of it. Testing the function, make sure not to go too far forward. Alright, next comes the sear, the safety lever, and the extractor assembly.